She only wanted to browse, to enjoy a quiet afternoon in the boutique. But the moment she stepped inside, everything changed. The glances, the whispers, the way the staff brushed past her as if she wasn't even there. It wasn't just about clothes. It was about something deeper, something cruel. She felt invisible, unwelcome, judged for nothing more than the color of her skin. But what no one in that store realized was that this moment of humiliation would turn into a revelation. And by the time she left, the entire boutique would never be the same again. For Aaliyah, shopping wasn't about luxury. It was about small moments of joy she had earned through hard work. She had just landed a major contract at her firm, the kind of win that took years of dedication, long nights, and endless perseverance. To celebrate, she decided to treat herself, choosing a high-end boutique she had admired from afar but never stepped inside. The boutique gleamed under the warm afternoon light, its tall glass doors promising elegance and refinement. Mannequins draped in couture gowns lined the windows, whispering of wealth and exclusivity. Aaliyah adjusted her coat, her heart beating with a mix of excitement and pride. This was her moment, a chance to feel part of the world she had worked so hard to reach. But as she crossed the threshold, the atmosphere shifted. The perfume-laced air seemed to thin, conversations quieted, and the staff's smiles faded into tight, dismissive glances. Instead of the warm welcome she had imagined, there was cold indifference, the kind that cuts deeper than words. One sales associate glanced at her, then quickly turned to greet the next customer, a woman draped in designer labels. Aaliyah tried to brush it off, reminding herself she had every right to be there. Yet the unease clung to her, whispering that this day of celebration was about to turn into something she hadn't expected.
If you believe in justice, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story that matters.
What she didn't know was that this ordinary afternoon would unravel into a moment that would not only test her strength, but redefine it forever. Aaliyah wandered deeper into the boutique, her eyes scanning rows of silk, velvet, and satin. The pieces were breathtaking, hand-stitched gowns, leather handbags displayed like trophies, shoes polished to perfection under spotlights. She reached for a sequin dress, running her fingers across the delicate fabric, but before she could admire it fully, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Those are very expensive," the sales associate said flatly, without even looking directly at her. The tone wasn't informative, it was dismissive, laced with the suggestion that she didn't belong. Aaliyah glanced around. Other customers, mostly well-dressed women sipping champagne offered by staff, received warm smiles and attentive whispers about the latest arrivals and exclusive pieces. For her, there was nothing. No greeting, no offer of help, just silence. And when attention came, it was wrapped in coldness, as though she was an intruder rather than a guest. Still, she pressed on, determined not to let their behavior ruin her celebration. She picked up a handbag, studying its fine stitching, when two associates whispered nearby. "Do you think she can even afford that?" one murmured, loud enough for her to hear. The other laughed softly, shaking her head. Their smirks pierced through her confidence like glass splinters. Heat flushed Aaliyah's cheeks. She wasn't naive. She knew what this was. It wasn't about the handbag or the gown. It was about her skin, the assumptions stitched into the very fabric of the room. They didn't see a successful woman, an accomplished professional. They saw only their own prejudice. Her instinct was to leave, to walk out and never look back. But something inside her tightened, a quiet resolve that refused to let their judgment define her moment. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and began walking toward the back of the boutique, where a display of limited edition pieces gleamed under crystal lights. The staff's eyes followed her, some with amusement, others with thinly veiled disdain. Aaliyah ignored them, pretending to browse, though inside, her heart pounded with anger and humiliation. Every step was a battle between pride and pain. When she finally caught sight of the boutique manager, an older woman in a sharp blazer, Aaliyah felt a flicker of hope. Maybe here, at least, she'd find the professionalism she deserved. But as she approached, the manager looked her up and down with a slow, assessing gaze. The kind of gaze that wasn't about service, but about judgment. And then, with a tight smile, She turned away to greet another customer, leaving Aaliyah standing alone in silence. The laughter, the whispers, the pointed disregard. They weren't accidents. They were deliberate. And with every passing second, the weight of it pressed harder against her chest. But what no one in that boutique realized was that the moment of reckoning was closer than they could ever imagine. Aaliyah stood in the center of the boutique, her pulse hammering in her ears. Every subtle insult, every dismissive glance, every whispered laugh weighed on her shoulders like 1,000 bricks. She could have walked away. She could have swallowed the humiliation like so many times before. But not today. With steady steps, she approached the counter, where the manager stood chatting with a wealthy customer, all smiles and deference. The moment Aaliyah neared, that smile vanished. "Yes?" the manager asked curtly, her voice cool, her eyes already darting elsewhere. Aaliyah paused, letting the silence linger. The entire boutique seemed to lean into the moment, customers and staff alike watching, waiting for her to shrink back. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a crisp folder. She laid it carefully on the glass counter, her voice calm but unshakable. "I'll take the store," she said simply. Confusion flickered across the manager's face. Then disbelief. Then a nervous laugh. "Excuse me." Aaliyah opened the folder, revealing signed contracts, official documents stamped and sealed. Weeks before, unknown to anyone here, she had finalized the purchase. This boutique, the very one where they mocked her, belittled her, tried to erase her, was now hers. The silence that followed was deafening. The associates who had snickered fell quiet, their smirks dissolving into wide-eyed shock. The manager's face drained of color as her hands trembled, flipping through the papers she could no longer deny. Aaliyah's gaze swept the room. The same women who had looked through her moments ago now shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet her eyes. For the first time since she had entered, the power was hers, and it was undeniable. This wasn't just a purchase. It was a statement. Every act of cruelty, every assumption, every judgment, they had all led to this moment. And standing in the middle of the boutique, Aaliyah knew. This humiliation had transformed into triumph. Aaliyah walked out of the boutique not just as a customer, but as its new owner, turning their prejudice into her power. That day wasn't just about fashion. It was a reminder that dignity can't be denied, and respect is something no one should ever have to buy.